As you can see behind me here, we have several satellite images here from space tracking a major Hurricane Ian tonight as this moves across the southern Gulf of Mexico. Ian is on the move right now. I just measured the distance, the center of that hurricane, less than 100 miles from Key West, Florida, and it's eerily similar to the track you remember in '04, Hurricane Charlie. That one, it seemed like at one point it would move into Tampa, Florida. It ended up moving a little bit south as we got closer to when that system actually made a landfall, and this is going to take a similar track. Areas, you think back to Charlie, that were hard hit. That was August 2004, Orlando, all those impacts inland. If you can remember what that was like, that's the kind of threat and impact that we're going to expect as this now looks to be a major hurricane at the time of landfall. A lot of folks watching us right now. First Alert Weather Extra on our streaming channels. You can catch us on our First Alert Weather app as well. Now is the time for folks that are watching us outside of Alabama. If you're tuning in across Florida, checking in with us, make sure you have multiple ways to stay weather alert. Charge those mobile devices. You need to have backup batteries and be ready tonight because we could start to see that risk for tornadoes here impacting parts of our area this evening. You're looking at the radar. I want to go back over to Hurricane Ian and just show you what the watch warning map looks like at the moment. And look at South Florida already. We're seeing tornado warnings happening in here. And I noticed earlier, even around Dade County, there were some warnings as early as 2, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's been all day off and on tornado warnings, and that's what happens. You get these tropical systems that start to interact with land. It's the wind shear that causes these tornadoes, and that risk is going to be there through tonight. So it's going to be a long night in here watching radar for folks. It's actually going to be a busy 48 hours. In fact, as not only the threat for tornadoes, but the threat of the actual hurricane starts to move in. But this is the infrared satellite image, and what this does, a lot of texture to this satellite image. You can really see where we have the taller clouds and that deeper convection around the center, and notice that new growth happening there. One thing I noticed by seeing this, you really don't see any part or any quadrant of that eye notably kind of sheared off. So that's a sign that this shows no sign of weakening, at least right now based on what we're seeing. Notice how it's passing by the Keys. They're moving to the north and looks like it may be picking up a little bit of speed. The winds at last advisory 120 miles per hour, but expecting even higher winds before this makes landfall. And notice the track now brings this in. If you joined us yesterday, we were showing on TV one of our high resolution models took this in south of Tampa, and that's where a lot of the models are really starting to lock in here. Kind of like what happened with Charlie. You know, it looked like Tampa for a while, and then now we're seeing maybe around Punta Gorda. If that area sounds familiar, that's right around the Inglewood, Florida area. Look around Fort Myers. And this would be tomorrow afternoon, 1, 2 o'clock. Look at this, a Category 4 hurricane. That eye will be moving in, and until it gets here, this is kind of a worst case scenario because you end up east of that eye. You've got the onshore flow. It's going to drive that water in from the south. I mean, you could end up with a storm surge in here topping a foot in some locations, the way this is all timing out. And then notice as it moves inland, still hurricane force winds up through Tampa, Lakeland, Florida, tracking in towards Orlando. I was talking, JP was actually sharing some information and looking back at Charlie when that system moved across Florida. We saw around Orlando winds over 100 miles per hour. We could see that kind of wind. There's going to be widespread power outages, and the rainfall totals, the way this is coming in, it is going to move on in tomorrow afternoon, but still could be over a foot of rain in many areas. But notice the impact. Stay well east of Alabama. This will have quite an impact along the coastal areas now. It looks like of Georgia, in the Savannah area, up through Charleston, but it will be a much weaker system. Atlanta could get some rain. Still can't rule out some showers across East Alabama. I'm just not seeing any major impacts across the state of Alabama at this point. But sadly, there will be parts of the region that deal with this hurricane. Here's a look at the graph model. Again, this is the IBM Global High Resolution Atmospheric Forecast System. This is the 4-kilometer, some of the data we have here in the First Alert Weather Center. And notice by tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m., the center, they're not far from Fort Myers, and this model in particular brings the system in from Sarasota over to Fort Myers, Venice, Inglewood areas, and looks like a fairly large eye according to the data as well. Notice as it moves inland, What typically will happen, of course, once the tropical system moves over land, it starts to weaken, and then you'll start to see that heavier precipitation really more located there. It'll start to kind of take on more of a comma shape. You'll notice that when you look at the radar data with time. But that heavy rain and the stronger wind fields are going to spread in around Orlando, Daytona Beach, and then back up towards Jacksonville now. Ocala crossing I-75 here across central Florida, north of the Turnpike. That's where some of the more significant impacts are going to start to evolve here, it looks like, into Thursday morning as that hurricane tracks north. In the meantime, we're going to shift gears. We're going from hurricanes to fires because around this part of the country in Alabama, we have a high fire danger. We actually have some very dry air in place, and just want to note, if you open up the weather app and you check out the alerts, you may see a red flag warning, and that's because we do have low humidities, gusty winds, and we want you to avoid burning at least next couple days. Weather's beautiful out there, but just one thing we need to watch out for. Let's bring in meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Lauren, of course, the other big story, it looks like Ian now since Irma. This is one of the most powerful hurricanes we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, it's certainly been a minute. Of course, we had Michael down on the Gulf Coast of the Panhandle, but it looks like really the Panhandle is going to get through this unscathed. But there is a thing, even if you don't see any rain, we could be seeing some wind increasing in the coming days. Now, we've been talking about that dry air here in central Alabama. Feeling really good, feeling like fall. But you can see where all of the moisture is locked up around Ian, and we're seeing around the eye wall. That northern eye wall is where you're getting some of the most intense rain, and that's also where we're going to see the most intense winds. Right now, 120-mile-per-hour winds, still a Category 3, but likely could become a Category 4 as it approaches landfall. So I want to show you why initially the forecast was hoping, okay, Ian would slow down a little bit. Maybe it would even ingest some dry air, because tropical systems, they don't like dry air. Unlike us, we love the lower humidity. A tropical system searches for that moisture. And so with this trough that we had come down and bring us this nice fall air, we were hoping that, okay, if Ian went a little further to the west and maybe took its time getting through the Gulf, then it could ingest some of that dry air and it would weaken. Now, we do think that's going to happen eventually, but unfortunately, Ian took a path a little farther east in western Cuba than we had hoped, and so now it's moving over that warm water of the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, and so it's getting all of that moisture wrapped up in it, and that is going to be leading to a rainfall threat, and with that rapid intensification, you're also getting a wind threat as well. But as we look at our satellite here closer to Alabama, we are beginning to see some clouds moving through the wiregrass on the outside, those thin, wispy cirrus clouds that you see. Some of that now moving over the wiregrass area. We're talking southeast Alabama, southwest Georgia, the Florida Big Bend. But as far as Ian, when you look at this, I want you to notice the way the rain and the clouds are moving. Basically, you've got air that is moving counterclockwise, and that's because Ian is a hurricane, which is basically a strong area of low pressure. And in the northern hemisphere, you get air that rotates counterclockwise around this. So you've got a really strong area of low pressure, but then on the flip side, we've also had this really dry air come in across the U.S. And so you've got a really strong high pressure that is sitting over the Gulf Coast. And so when you've got a strong high pressure, first of all, you've got air rotating clockwise around that. And when you have a difference in pressure, it's known as a gradient. A gradient is basically a change. So when you have a strong pressure gradient between two locations, that means your forecast is going to be turning breezy, and that's what we're going to be seeing here in the coming days as Ian moves inland and then really begins to slow down. Even though, yes, it is expected to weaken once it moves inland, because we have this strong high pressure that's sitting over the Gulf Coast and you've got in close proximity Ian, that is going to help to up our wind speeds here. Now, could we see tropical storm force winds here in central Alabama? Looks very unlikely. Here's that wind field showing that as we get into Friday, it looks like likely, because Ian has taken more of that path to the south and east, that the best chance for tropical storm force winds on the order of 39+ miles per hour would be more so maybe along the Georgia coast into the Carolinas. But we're still going to see breezy conditions here just because of those pressure gradient winds. So if we just look at tomorrow, even before Ian would creep into somewhere a little closer by like Georgia, we could see gusts up to 25, if not 30 miles per hour. Remember, in order to be tropical storm force, force west, of course, that's 39 miles per hour plus. But I think for us, certainly could be breezy. And as you were mentioning with that fire danger concern, when you've got very low moisture, when you've got very dry air in the atmosphere, and then you have these breezy conditions, I know this is the type of weather where we would love to sit outside, maybe be around the fire pit, but you certainly want to be careful with outdoor burning because the atmospheric conditions, for us at least, are ripe for seeing that fire danger.
Yeah, it's incredible the difference in weather across the region. You know, that's sometimes, Lauren, it's so deceiving when you have a tropical system, especially we've had so many teams on the Gulf Coast when you've had hurricanes like Michael approaching, and the day before it's crystal clear, and then that system moves in. But obviously, you know, this is going to be quite the impact here now, Lauren. You know, based on what we're seeing, you know, you go from one point when it looked like it might weaken before making landfall now to a Cat 4. I'm just looking here, just stand by here for a second. I want to talk to you about this. Since 1980, 6 other September Atlantic hurricanes. I was looking at a researcher here talking about only 6 others had a pressure as low. Right now we're looking at a pressure level about 952 millibars. Irma, Ike, Ivan, Isidore, all those I-name systems.
Yes, and meteorologist Jill Gilardi was actually doing some research on this. The I-name storms are the ones that have to get renamed the most. And renamed as in a storm gets retired, so you have to come up with another I-name. And there we go. There's the graphic right there. And I know we don't have a ton of I-names at our disposal, so you can see even one included from the Greek alphabet. Remember, the 2020 hurricane season was certainly record-breaking. Iota there, but it's really when these I-name storms occur, oftentimes it is kind of in that peak of hurricane season. You think about the middle of the alphabet, I kind of right in there, and so that's certainly something that we could be seeing here with Ian based on this track forecast, certainly if it makes landfall as a Category 4. But remember, these hurricanes, they're classified based on wind speed. So we're certainly, as we've been mentioning, Wes, going to be seeing impacts well outside of just wind damage. As we always say, you know, when you're looking at wind versus rain threats within a system, when it comes to the wind, you can hide from the wind, but you want to run from the water because storm surge can be the deadliest part of a system. And so as we see all of this moisture making its way inland, you've got this inland push of water, and that's what storm surge is. And I was actually just talking with one of my friends who works down at a station in Fort Myers, and they are staying at the station, of course, to give coverage. But Wes, they have actually taken steel barricades to put up against the doors in Fort Myers, literally from the storm surge threat. You know,
that is one of the things, Lauren, here you look at this, and based on the way this track, you know, yesterday we were talking about Tampa Bay, perhaps could be an area of foot plus storm surge, and now just because of the way that track's been adjusted, you're looking at areas here around Cape Coral. Look at this, Bonita Springs, 12 to 15 foot storm surge.
Yeah, and Wes, a lot of people have like, well, what happened? We thought at one point it was going to go a little farther to the west. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with actually friction with land interaction that it had with Cuba. We say this a lot of times, but you notice it came a little farther to the east over that western side of Cuba. And if you think about when you're driving along, maybe not paying attention, which isn't a good thing, maybe you run up on a curb. What happens to your car? If you run up on a curb, it goes to the right. And that's the same thing that happens here when you look at this hurricane moving over land with friction. Sometimes it can get just pushed a little farther to the north and east. So if it had been a situation where this had gone just to the east of the Yucatan Peninsula over open water, that western track still could have been viable. But because it did end up dodging a little farther to the east, that's why we're seeing now that potential for landfall west, maybe somewhere south of Tampa.
Yeah, and you know, it's another thing, Lauren, a great way to talk about it. You ever had that little toy, the top, you know, you wrap the string around it and you let the little top spin away, and these things, they spin, and as they move along, it doesn't take a lot. I remember Isidore, that hurricane, I remember tracking that one, Lauren. It moved across the Yucatan, and then it seemed like once it interacted with land, it just couldn't get itself back together with respect to rotation. That can disrupt it sometimes. But in this case, you have a hurricane that's actually going through a rapid strengthening cycle here over the last couple of scans.
Exactly, and it moved into that environment where you had that boiling hot water just north of Cuba sitting around the Florida Keys, the Florida Straits, just waiting to be ingested into the storm. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, certainly a lot to keep our eye on. And here's a look at some of the model data. This is one of the more aggressive models. This is the GFS, which seems to show actually, I believe, This is the GFS model, the American model, which shows the possibility if we did see some rain across our area. I just want to jump right on into the weekend here. A lot of folks have been asking me about Talladega coming up on Sunday. There's Saturday, 7 a.m. Okay, Auburn area. You can see we could have a little bit of rain there if this scenario plays out. Atlanta area could get some rain. The more significant impacts, though, back in here across far South Georgia. We're talking about down along the coastal areas. By this point, it will be a much weaker system, but it looks like the center of this, based on this particular model, even stays off to the south and west of the Charleston area. This keeps it a little bit further to the west, but a lot of the data keeps this even further east, and this model in particular has just been so far, too far to the west. In fact, in the past couple of scans, I don't see a lot of wet weather, maybe some showers far eastern areas by Saturday morning. But we'll have the full 7-day forecast coming up as we continue to track Hurricane Ian right here on First Alert Weather Extra. Stay with us.
When 6 on Your Side investigates, the issues that directly impact you matter most to us.
That's why we're getting answers on rising prices and how you can save some money.
And being another set of eyes looking out for your kids and your family.
Getting to the bottom of health and billing issues that may be hidden in the fine print.
How events nationwide are affecting you here at home.
WBRC Fox 6 is always here on your side, ready to help. This is why 6 on Your Side investigates.
These are your mornings, and Good Day Alabama is built to start them right. The only station staying local on all platforms all morning long. In your community, giving you a deeper perspective with the largest team dedicated to you. Showing new stories from overnight, helping you get through your day. With First Alert weather and traffic, getting to the point, not wasting your time. These are your mornings. Prepare for a good day. Prepare with Good Day Alabama.
When moments turn severe, how do you find clarity?
This is your First Alert from the WBRC Fox 6 weather team. We're with you as we prepare for this threat.
In a season of constant change, when you need to know first, when you need to prepare, only one team gives you the First Alert wherever you are. A trusted team staying ahead of what's next in your neighborhood. Stay alert. Stay with the First Alert weather team. Live, new, and on your side, beginning at 9 p.m. In a day filled with clutter and noise, WBRC Fox 6 News breaks down what you need to know before anyone else. With new updates, live and on the scene, answers for your money and your livelihood, with 6 on Your Side investigates. And your First Alert for the hours and days ahead with the WBRC First Alert weather team. On your favorite platforms every night. WBRC Fox 6 News at 9 and 10. On your side.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Wes and I were just talking about how the most dangerous part of a storm, even though these hurricanes are based on wind speed, is actually the water, the storm surge. Meteorologist Matt Daniel explains.
Hurricane Ian, of course, the big story this week for parts of the Florida peninsula. And of course, storm surge is always one of those big things we always monitor when it comes to hurricanes. There's multiple threats with hurricanes. It's not just the category and the wind. A lot of it has to do with the storm surge and the flooding associated with it. So what is storm surge? Well, here's the diagram. Let's show you how it works. You have pretty much just the ocean, normal sea level. And of course, when you get a storm moving through, you get a little bit of surge from the ocean as the wind starts to blow. And when you have the larger storm with a lot of wind, that's going to create more storm surge. So you're pretty much getting water from the ocean surging inland and creating flooding along the coastal region. So what happens when you see a little bit of storm surge? So when you get about 3 feet of storm surge, and especially in the low-lying areas, you're going to start to see some of the areas that would be dry inundated with a lot of water. But then when you have about 6 feet, the surge can make its way farther inland, and it could impact homes depending on the elevation of the location. So there could be some flooding already with this. But what happens when you get, 10 to 12 feet of storm surge? You're talking about a mass of water moving onshore and perhaps covering up buildings. with so much storm surge. So usually when you see 12 feet or more, you're talking about a very large hurricane, usually a major hurricane, a 3, 4, or 5. Now, I don't know if we're going to see 12 feet of storm surge when it comes to Ian, but we're definitely looking at significant storm surge along the western coast of Florida.
Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, certainly some concern about storm surge along the Florida Gulf Coast. As far as the Alabama coast over toward the Florida Panhandle, should be some nice beach weather over the next couple of days. But of course, it is still hurricane season. We check in with Fred Hunter with Absolutely Alabama to talk with a family who has had their fair share of dodges with hurricanes.
Welcome to another Absolutely Alabama Weather Extra coming to you from our beautiful Gulf Coast. You know, the weather impacts us all in one way or another and at different times in different ways. Here at Hog Wild Beach and Barbecue, we met a couple whose lives have been impacted not once, but twice by seemingly catastrophic weather events.
This all kind of started back in 2011. I met my wife in Tuscaloosa, and I spent some time there in college, and that's really where my passion and love for barbecue started. It was the Tuscaloosa thing to do.
I moved here when I was 10 years old from a small town about 3 hours north of here. Went to Gulf Shores High School, graduated here. I've loved it ever since we got here. We went through Hurricane Ivan. We lived in Orange Beach at the time, and we evacuated, and we came back and our house was heavily damaged. We had to live in a condo for 3 months while we renovated. Went to college, met my husband TJ, and I brought him back down here after the tornado, and we've been here ever since.
We were actually in the tornado, the EF4 tornado that came through Tuscaloosa 2011. We took a direct hit there in Forest Lake, and it completely changed our lives. Everything about us, you know, the things we had wanted to do in the future, we looked at it differently after that.
Unfortunately, the couple would then see yet another storm come into their lives in 2020.
When Hurricane Sally hit here, when it was going to affect our restaurant, I told my husband, I was like, oh, it's nothing big, it's fine, we got it. But it was really, really scary for me.
And Sally taught us different lessons, different life lessons. That was a very traumatic event as well, to see a restaurant that we had poured our souls into be 4 foot underwater and everything just completely destroyed. I'll be honest with you, I wanted to give up, but my wife said, no, we're not. We've come too far, you know. But it was us in here taking everything out and completely renovating this place after being covered, inundated in water and completely destroyed.
Saving Hog Wild was important, not just for Caitlin and TJ, but for the people who come here. And they did.
This is one of the oldest buildings in Gulf Shores, and we love to preserve that history as well. So many memories have been made in this building, and we do feel like we're a staple now, and people come down year after year and make more memories here at Hog Wild with us.
TJ and Caitlin's story is about overcoming adversity. It's also about loving and living our great Gulf Coast. For this week's Absolutely Alabama Weather Extra from Gulf Shores, I'm Fred Hunter.
Remodeling a shower or bath can be tricky with gas prices up and tight monthly budgets. Cost is a real concern, but West Shore Home is helping homeowners get the shower bath they need right now. I'm joined by Kirsten from West Shore Home. And Kirsten, tell us, how is West Shore making bath remodeling affordable?
So Joe, for folks who want to get their bath or shower project done right now, we have a very special offer. We know that monthly budgets are a little bit tight right now, which is why we wanted to make this offer available to everyone. If they give us a call, we have 18 months of no payments and no interest financing. That means they can get their shower or bath done now and not have to make a payment for 18 full months.
So you're saying people can get their new shower bath installed right now and not have to worry about making any payments or paying any interest until 2024. That's really helpful.
Definitely. People love this plan because it allows them to be flexible with their finances.
Can we see some projects you've done recently?
Absolutely. So here's one where the homeowner wanted to replace their old fiberglass shower with something more new and modern. So we replaced it with a beautiful marble-style shower with an easy low-step entry and a beautiful shower door.
That is amazing. Perfect combination of safety and beauty.
It definitely is, so let's take a look at another one. These homeowners were struggling with mold and mildew from their old tile. They were tired of scrubbing. We were able to give them this beautiful new shower that is so much easier to clean. You can get a new shower or bath just like this when you call right now, and you won't have any interest or payments until 2024.
Kirsten, thanks so much. Folks, do not put off that shower or bath project any longer. West Shore Home is making it affordable to take care of that bath project right now. West Shore Home is extending this offer for 1 week only. Free installation on all shower and bath projects. And for a limited time, they're doing 18 months of flexible financing. That's no payments and no interest until early 2024. This is an offer you don't want to miss. Call the shower and bath experts at West Shore Home now.
All right, welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Chief Meteorologist Wes White. I know we've been talking a lot about Hurricane Ian, but around here the weather, it's been incredible. And last night, I got to give a big shout out to Jill and Lauren. We were looking at some of that forecast data yesterday. A lot of the models said that we'd start out maybe some 50s and went a little bit cooler in the 40s. And sure enough, you can see 40s again tomorrow morning. Next couple of mornings, it's going to be chilly out there with its air being so dry. That temperature is really dropping a lot lower than what some of the guidance suggests. So it's going to be another chilly start early in the day tomorrow. You look at this first alert fire threat. What's that all about? Well, low humidities, winds picking up during the daytime hours. Not a good environment for a fire could get out of control in a hurry. And that's why the Weather Service, they've issued the red flag warning. So avoid burning until we get some wet weather. It's very crispy, very dry out there at the moment. Dangerously dry, in fact. Friday and Saturday, watching Ian, and some of those showers could move into far eastern areas. I still think West Alabama, no problems. Even for Birmingham, Coleman, Shelby County, maybe a little bit breezy next couple of days. But if we do see showers, greatest chance will be far east, Heflin, Center, perhaps around Piedmont, those areas by Saturday morning. And all that moves out. We should be in okay shape for Talladega, but continue to follow along with us just in case that track changes. But highly unlikely we'll see any major shift over the next few days. Monday and Tuesday, highs in the 70s, a little bit warmer next week, and there's a chance as we go beyond the 7-day, we'll get those temperatures back into the low 80s, which is closer to average for this time of the year. Again, a chilly night out there. More on Hurricane Ian as we continue right here on First Alert Weather Extra.
When 6 on Your Side investigates, the issues that directly impact you matter most to us. This is why 6 on Your Side investigates.
These are your mornings, and Good Day Alabama is built to start them right. The only station staying local on all platforms all morning long. Prepare for a good day. Prepare with Good Day Alabama.
When 6 on Your Side investigates, the issues that directly impact you matter most to us.
That's why we're getting answers on rising prices and how you can save some money.
How events nationwide are affecting you here at home.
WBRC Fox 6 is always here on your side, ready to help. This is why 6 on Your Side investigates.
In a season of constant change, when you need to know first, when you need to prepare, only one team gives you the first alert. A trusted team staying ahead of what's next in your neighborhood. Stay alert. Stay with the First Alert Weather Team.
When 6 on Your Side investigates, the issues that directly impact you matter most to us.
Being another set of eyes looking out for your kids and your family.
This is why 6 on Your Side investigates.
Live, new, and on your side. Beginning at 9 p.m., WBRC Fox 6 News breaks down what you need to know before anyone else on your favorite platforms every night. WBRC Fox 6 News at 9 and 10. On your side.
When 6 on Your Side investigates, the issues that directly impact you matter most to us.
That's why we're getting answers on rising prices and how you can save some money.
This is why 6 on Your Side investigates.
How will the weather impact your roads? The First Alert Weather app has live traffic updates and road conditions for a safer commute. This is why we First Alert.
WBRC Fox 6 News. On your side.
All right, let's take a look at the Alabama Gulf Coast to see what impacts, if any, Ian, based on its current forecast, is going to have on that area. You can see minimal impacts for now. There is a high rip current threat, so if you're headed down there, You might want to stay out of the water and maybe just go to the pool while you're there, but still beautiful weather. It's likely staying dry down there. You can see the rip current forecast very high. We've got wind speeds coming at you at 25 miles per hour on Thursday, 22 miles per hour on Friday. So some battering waves down there at the Gulf Coast, even though we're far to the west of that center of circulation with Ian. There's a very high UV index down at the beaches as well, so if you're just enjoying getting out and walking around on the beaches, just be sure and wear that sunscreen, a hat, sunglasses like that. Let's check out the future radar down there, and as we get into tomorrow afternoon, still dry, temperature readings into the 70s then, and we get into the day on Thursday. Warms up a little bit into the upper 70s, maybe low 80s in some locations, but this area should not be impacted much as far as rain is concerned by the course of Ian. You can see it moves into far southeast Alabama and throughout Georgia, but Destin, Panama City, Pensacola, and Gulf Shores looking to stay dry. And you can see it here in the forecast there down to the beaches. Upper 70s to low 80s for highs, overnight lows into the 60s, and only a 20% chance of showers as we get into Friday and Saturday. But I certainly wouldn't cancel my beach plans based on that. And wherever you go, whether it's the beaches, the mountains, or just staying here at home, you can get weather on the go right there at your fingertips through your First Alert weather app.
Thanks for that, Mickey. We're certainly thankful along the Alabama Gulf Coast that it looks like our impacts will be minimal from Ian. Can't say the same for our neighbors down in south central, southwest Florida. But in the meantime, looking at our forecast, in case you didn't notice, a little cold front has come through. So I do think we're likely going to have a first alert for 40s again on Wednesday and Thursday morning. But because we've got that really dry air in place and winds are going to be picking up, as we mentioned, from that pressure gradient, from that dry high pressure and then Ian down to our south and east, that low pressure, we do expect breezy conditions that will lead to that fire danger. So definitely don't want to do any outdoor burning. We could still see some isolated showers into Saturday on the far west side of Ian. Much weaker system by then, but we will have an update tonight on First at 9 with Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt. And of course, we'll have the latest on Hurricane Ian as well. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. Have a safe and happy Tuesday evening.